chair at all.
Should she move her chair at all?
Yeah, this is pretty straightforward.
And
This would still work for your phone.
It wouldn't. It would work on your phone.
You're right.
However, I tried this, the one that he gave me, and it works on my phone.
Oh, it does?
It does.
Hello, testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing.
Can you hear Bailey? Oh.
Hear me?
special WEBN and MCham production of Election 2024. I'm Faith Pinto.
And I'm Emily Martinez. Faith, the day is finally here. It's been a crazy election season.
Yes, Emily, in what is anticipated to be one of the closest presidential elections in recent history, some polling locations in certain states are starting to close and votes are rolling in. It's going to be a very interesting and exciting night, and we have all the coverage.
Exactly. It's going to be a long night. So let's take a look at some of our correspondents for the evening. Massachusetts opened its polling places at 7 this morning, with some starting as early as 5:45. Voters were able to cast ballots across 22 wards around the state, but 2 wards, West Roxbury and Hyde Park, ran low on ballots because of the high turnout. Extra ballots were provided with police escort earlier this evening. All polling places in the state have closed.
And Donald Trump is taking his third shot at presidency this year after a victory in 2016 and a defeat in 2020.
Hi.
With your support on November 5th, America will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before.
Cute anchors.
Trump has defined his political brand with strong conservative views on immigration, healthcare, and social issues. Trump has criticized Harris for economic shortcomings during the Biden administration. And Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, has taken a conservative approach on abortion rights and family rights. At 78 years old, Trump is the oldest major party nominee in history.
If elected, Vice President Kamala Harris will make history as the first female U.S. president.
As for last night, yet again, Trump not showing up, refused to be a part of a CNN debate, and clearly his staff has been saying he's exhausted.
Harris has campaigned for abortion rights across the states and supporting America's middle-class families. Much of her bid to the Oval Office has been defined by her sharp contrast to Trump. Harris's vice presidential pick, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, could help her appeal to working-class and rural voters.
We will now be going to our Devona studio for an update from our polling and electoral correspondent, Noah Berkowitz. Noah, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing well, Faith and Emily. I hope you guys are doing well, too. Now, at the end of last week, polling from swing states around the country had both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump locked in an unbelievably tight race. Now, based off of 538 polling averages, Nevada was dead even. Both Wisconsin and Michigan leaned Harris by around 1 percentage point. And Pennsylvania and North Carolina leaned towards Trump by the same margin. And both Georgia and Arizona's polling averages leaned 2 points towards Trump. Now, there is a lot of information to unpack with each state. However, it's worth noting that just a slight error in polling could actively mean a radically different landscape when ballots are counted. Now, nationally on Friday, Kamala Harris actually held a 1+ point lead. Now, this being said, the race, according to most pollsters, including some of the highest-rated pollsters in the country, is virtually a coin flip, all depending on different scenarios on which state each candidate wins. Meaning there are realistic roads where we see an electoral college landslide, or on the opposite side of the spectrum, an electoral college tie. Exit polls tonight will absolutely give us a glimpse at what some voters have decided. However, nothing is certain other than the actual tallied votes, which we'll be getting news on throughout the night. Now, there are a few roads for each candidate to get their golden number of 270 tonight. Let's go over the most feasible options for Kamala Harris first. Now, more likely than not, the road to the White House goes through here, the Rust Belt. Now, if Harris secures the Electoral College votes of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, she is virtually guaranteed to be the next president. Should Democratic strongholds fall into place, that would be what happens. Now, the only way she doesn't win in this scenario is if she still wins the Rust Belt states, but loses the rest of the swing states, as well as one of Nebraska's single electoral college vote regions. In that scenario, we would have an electoral college tie. Now, Harris can also win while losing one Rust Belt state. For example, say Donald Trump were to win Michigan and its 15 electoral votes. Kamala would need to make it up in a different swing state with a similar amount of electoral votes, pinning it down to just North Carolina or Georgia down here. Now, if she were to win one of those, she could afford a loss in one of the 3 Rust Belt states. Now, for Donald Trump, there are also different options. One scenario for him would go through Pennsylvania. If Trump were to win Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, he would be the next president. Even if he lost Arizona in this situation, Trump would beat Harris by 2 electoral votes. There's also the chance of a landslide election. Now, let's say Kamala Harris wins every state classified as a swing state. She would beat Trump 319 to 219. Now, let's take away Arizona and North Carolina. Harris still wins in dominating fashion, so much so that she could even lose Pennsylvania and still win the Electoral College, thanks to Georgia and Nevada. Now, lots of different puzzle pieces to fit into the equation. However, also lots of different ways each candidate could win. That's all for now. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you so much, Noah. Yes, North Carolina, in fact, shattered early voting records over the weekend, according to the state's Board of Elections. More than 4.2 million people cast their ballots at in-person voting sites by time early voting closed on Saturday. Karen Brinson-Bell, the state board executive director, called North Carolina's turnout, quote, inspiring. She gave a special shout out to those voters in western counties who were devastated by Hurricane Helene just weeks ago. It was in those 25 western counties, in fact, that early voting was the strongest. And while the road to the White House will likely run through North Carolina, the swing state has a lot on the ballot. This year, residents are choosing a new governor, attorney general, and other state positions.
Secretary of State William Galvin gave an update on voter turnout yesterday at the State House. Reporter Emma Siebold has the story.
Massachusetts Secretary of State William Galvin said he anticipates a record voter turnout in yesterday's press conference.
We think people have appreciated the options that they've been presented with. Nevertheless, it's my opinion that we will see more people actually turn out tomorrow than have participated so far. To that extent, I do believe we will exceed our record turnout of 2020 of 3.6 million, almost 3.7 million.
76% of registered voters went to the polls in 2020, which is the highest turnout since 1992 when Bill Clinton beat incumbent George H.W. Bush.
It's been a long year. It's been a year of surprises and some drama. But I think clearly the voters have been focused on this election now for some time. I think they're prepared to make their choices.
As of Monday morning, Galvin said 1.7 million ballots had already been returned, and more were expected to come in before election night.
With local, state, and national offices on the line and 5 statewide ballot questions, a record turnout could be critical for Massachusetts voters this year. Reporting from the State House, I'm Emma Siebold, WEBN News. We are going live soon.
Downtown Boston. Shelby, what do you have for us tonight?
Cheers and applause just came from the crowd moments ago as CNN has projected that Kamala Harris has won Massachusetts. Going back to the studio.
Thank you, Shelby. We'll be right back more with information on the polls.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at SheCanSTEM.com.
It's all good, baby.
Is it really all good? If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high. Oh.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's now turn to our local elections. Massachusetts Democrat Elizabeth Warren has been re-elected to the U.S. Senate, beating Republican challenger John Deaton. The AP called the race before any of the votes were reported, meaning that the outcome was likely based on exit polls, according to the New York Times. The AP has also called 5 House races in favor of Democrats, with incumbents Lori Tran, Jake Auchincloss, Catherine Clark, Seth Moulton, and Ayanna Pressley being re-elected.
Here in Massachusetts, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren and Republican competitor John Deaton are in the race for U.S. Senate. Warren is
Things heated up in the second debate between incumbent Senator Elizabeth Warren and former prosecutor and Republican John Deaton. Deaton calling Senator Warren corrupt, saying he could even prosecute her for perjury. Senator Warren attacked Deaton for his heavy investment in crypto, saying his loyalty was to crypto and private equity alone. The 3 main points of contention during this debate were abortion, infrastructure, and aid to Ukraine. On abortion, Deaton said if elected, he will be a champion in codifying reproductive rights federally. He even partially blames Roe v. Wade's overturn on Senator Warren's inaction. Warren defended herself, saying codifying abortion rights would be impossible as long as the Senate filibuster exists. The one area the two agreed on was the creation of an east-west rail connecting Boston to western Massachusetts. Finally, a large focus of this debate and both campaigns is U.S. intervention in the war in Ukraine. Elizabeth Warren has said she will continue to vote in favor of sending support to Ukraine. Deaton is skeptical of sending more aid without a cohesive military plan. He said, quote, "The war in Ukraine is the single biggest issue this election, period. One mistake and we're in World War III," end quote. An early October UMass Amherst poll has Warren leading Deaton 55 to 34%. That's all I have. Back to you at the desk.
From the Union Bank billboardy theater at the Emerson College watch party. Beilu, how are you doing? What do you have for us?
You know, for most of these students, you know, it's either their first time voting or, you know, their first time just viewing into this election, which is expected because both of these presidential nominees are targeting, you know, these Gen Z voters, you know, whether it's in their presidential ads or on TikTok or, you know, celebrity endorsements. And you can kind of see that here in this room. That's all I have for you right now. Back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Beilu. Yes, for a lot of people, it is their first time voting. In fact, I know that the Harris campaign sent out multiple celebrities to encourage college students to continue waiting in line even after polls close. I mean, I don't know, I heard Paul Rudd was out. Demi
I think
Lovato.
Lovato, yeah,
Demi
I know.
Lovato was at University of Nevada, I believe, Las Vegas. Very interesting.
Kamala's trying to secure those last-minute votes.
Correct.
So now we're going to head toward the bonus studio where we're going to hear from Madison Lucchese. Madison, what do you have for us tonight?
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Madison.
How is it down in the JPC?
So we're still, we're going through some things. We're hearing some live shots from people here at right here in house at Emerson College. We also got to hear from Shelby O'Brien earlier. So
yeah, but we're anxious to hear what you have to say about the Senate races. Any news yet, Madison?
I can't wait to tell you. A few races have already been called, which was so exciting. Things are already coming in. I know Indiana was called, but let me tell you all about it. The Massachusetts senatorial race created a stir after 2 debates between the candidates. Incumbent Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren seeks re-election for a 3rd term. Attorney and former Marine John Deaton is challenging Warren's Senate seat. The candidates disagree on 2 key issues: MCAS as a graduation requirement and immigration. Senator Warren supports the removal of the MCAS graduation requirement and liberal immigration and asylum policies, whereas Deaton stands on the other side of both issues and considers the war between Russia and Ukraine to be the biggest issue in this election cycle. Leading up to today's election, Warren has held a steady lead of more than 20 points over Deaton. According to ABC News' 538, Republicans win the Senate in 92 out of 100 simulations. The Senate seat in West Virginia is going to be filled by a Republican tonight. West Virginia's incumbent independent Senator Joe Manchin is not seeking re-election for a 3rd term. The Democratic candidate is the former mayor of Wheeling, West Virginia, Glenn Elliott. Jim Justice, who has been the West Virginia governor since 2017, is the Republican candidate. He received criticism as governor for his outstanding debts. Justice showed a 35-point lead in the primary and declared victory in the senatorial race last month. The AP declared Jim Justice the winner of the West Virginia Senate seat. The swing state of Pennsylvania is a key state to watch tonight. The Senate race is another close one. Democratic incumbent candidate Robert P. Casey Jr. is seeking his 4th term in the Senate. The opposing candidate is businessman and Bush administration Undersecretary for the Treasury for International Affairs Dave McCormick. Casey's campaign focused on combating so-called greedflation, and he holds an almost 3-point lead in the polls. Democrat Debbie Stabenow is not seeking re-election after 4 terms as a Michigan senator. Democratic Congresswoman Elisa Slotkin and Republican Congressman Mike Rogers are running to fill the open seat. Slotkin became representative of Michigan's 7th district when Stabenow became the state's first female senator. Rogers, who is endorsed by Trump, came out of retirement to run for this seat. Slotkin carried an almost 4-point lead over Rogers in the polls, but the race is considered a toss-up. In Nevada, Democratic incumbent candidate Jackie Rosen seeks her 2nd term as senator. The Republican businessman Sam Brown, challenging Rosen, fought in the Afghanistan war where he sustained burns from an improvised explosive. Rosen supports the right to an abortion and immigration reform policies. Brown also supports the right to choose and was the only senator Trump mentioned in his GOP nomination acceptance speech. Rosen is the predicted winner with a 4-point lead in the polls. Rick Scott, incumbent Republican senator for Florida, is running for his 2nd term. Former Congresswoman Debbie Mucarsel Powell is the Democratic candidate for Florida Senate. She was the first Ecuadorian American and South American-born person to serve in the U.S. Congress as a representative for Florida's 26th district. Scott was the 45th governor of Florida. His, quote, Rescue America campaign plans to, quote, protect Floridians from left-wing policies. The polls show Scott with nearly an 8-point lead. Stay tuned for more Senate news coming soon.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Welcome back.
Let's get some more updates right now.
We're very excited. There have been a lot of polls coming in, but first, you're going to talk a little bit about polling, Emily.
Right here in-house, Emerson College polling has administered public surveys and conducted their own polling since 2012. Their final national survey revealed that both Trump and Kamala have 49% of voters, 1% are undecided, and 1% are voting third party. As far as swing states go, their final polls are still too close to call. Ultimately, the final decision will go down to the gender age gaps on the ballots. WEBN reporter Bryce Heelman sat down with Emerson polling director Spencer Kimball.
Established 25 years ago, Emerson Polling is now a nationally ranked organization based at Emerson College. Executive Director Spencer Kimball turned Emerson Polling from a classroom exercise into an established polling center in 2012. His over 20 years of experience has made him a professional in the field.
We start with drafting questions, so you got to draft some questions. We design a sample, and then we have data collection. Then we have data analysis, and then distribution. So the data analysis, we get that data back. Does it represent the population that we're trying to study? And then we distribute those. So those are the 5 Ds of polling, and we try to work them out on each survey.
Emerson Polling's most recent findings on October 24th have Trump building momentum after falling short in comparison to Harris during the past months. Currently, Emerson Polling has both Harris and Trump at 49% when respondents were asked who they would vote for today.
So Trump had the lead in early July, loses the lead, and then over the course of about 2.5 months, what we've seen is a slow withering of support for Harris, and it seems going into the election that Trump has some momentum come election day, but really close races, particularly in those swing states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
This is Bryce Heilman, WEBN News.
We now go to swing state correspondent Hung Yi Ji in Debona Studio for an update. Hung Yi, what do you have for us?
Thank you, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the time. Let us dive right into swing states. The first off is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has been an intensely contested battleground over the last few months. Currently, what the latest poll is showing us is that it is a tie game. Donald Trump, 48.2%, while Kamala Harris also 48.2%. Pennsylvania has a history of fluctuating between parties in major races. The state supported Democratic from 1992 through 2012, flipped to Republican in 2016, and was reclaimed by President Joe Biden in 2020. Pennsylvania's Senate seats are held by Democrat Bob Casey Jr. and Republican Pat Toomey in the House. In the House, the state's delegation is closely divided with a minor Democratic majority. It is also one of the 10 states with a high-profile ballot measure regarding abortion rights. Other key issues, including the economy, the health care, and education. The state's significant manufacturing sector means economic policies directly impact many residents. Additionally, debates over energy production, particularly natural gas extraction from Marcellus Shale, play a crucial role in shaping voters' preferences. The state's election administration has faced scrutiny regarding mail-in voting procedures. Legal challenges and debates over election integrity have been prominent, reflecting broader national conversations. Recent data indicates a surge in early voting among Republican voters in the state, with a report of 435,000 vote edge over Democrats. Pennsylvania also holds a large portion of the U.S. Electoral College. The state contributes 19 electoral votes, one of the most influential in the country. Voters' turnout in swing counties like Bucks, Montgomery, and Erie could be pivotal in this election. Among all the swing states, Pennsylvania is arguably the most crucial. If a candidate loses it, reaching 270 electoral votes become tough. Since 1936, almost every candidate who won Pennsylvania gone on and win the White House. Move on to North Carolina. Trump is leading in the poll by 1.3% at 48.6%. Harris stands at 47.3%. The state's favored former President Barack Obama in 2008. North Carolina voters shifted to Republican candidates in later elections, supporting Mitt Romney in 2012 and Donald Trump in both 2016 and 2020. Democrat Roy Cooper is the state's mayor. He was elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2020. In the Senate, North Carolina has leaned Republican, with senators like Tom Tillis and Richard Burr, who recently retired, reflecting the state's swing status. The House delegation from North Carolina has been closely contested. The seat frequently changes between parties due to redistricting and shifting demographics. Key issues in North Carolina, including the economy, healthcare, education, and social policies. North Carolina's economy is diverse, with strong sectors in agriculture, manufacturing, technology, and banking. The central concerns are economic policies affecting job growth, trade, and taxes. The decline of traditional industries in some areas of the state has made economic revitalization a critical issue. North Carolina is home to several major universities. This make issues such as public education funding, teacher salaries, and student loan debt top priorities. Social issues are also at the forefront of North Carolina politics. The passage of House Bill 2 in 2018, commonly known as the Bathroom Bill, restricted transgender individuals from using public restrooms. This highlighted divisions within the state on LGBTQ+ rights. Although parts of the law have already been repealed or changed, heated debates over discrimination continue. Let's now dive into Georgia. It is a state that just has recently emerged as critical battleground. The numbers now are Trump at 48.7%, Kamala Harris at 47.5%. Trump has an edge of 1.2%. Historically, Georgia was a reliable partner of the Republican Party in presidential elections, consistently voting for Republican Party from 1996 to 2016. A significant shift appeared in the 2020 election when Joe Biden won the state by a narrow margin. Georgia's gubernatorial races have generally favored Republicans in recent decades. Republicans have held the governor's office since 2003. The current governor, Brian Kemp, was elected in 2018 over the Democratic Stacey Abrams. This race drew national attention because debates over voter suppression. Georgia also leaned Republican in the Senate until the 2020 election. That year, Democrats Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff won both seats, taking them from the Republicans' hand. House of Representatives, Georgia's delegation being a mix, with urban areas like Atlanta leaning toward Democrats and rural areas favoring Republicans. Priority issues in this state that influence voters are economy, healthcare, voting rights, and education. Georgia's economy is composed of different sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, film production, and technology. Policies about job growth and economic development are top concerns. Healthcare access, just like many other swing states, remain a big issue in rural areas, particularly in the ongoing discussion over Medicaid expansion. Next up is education. Just like other swing states, public school funding, teacher salaries, and higher education affordability are what voters are caring about. Additionally, voting rights and election laws have been especially contentious in Georgia, and they enacted new legislation after the last election, which sparked national debate over election integrity versus voter access. Our team will monitor the poll numbers and bring you live updates in the coming hours. Back to you.
5.
Thank you so much, Hong-Yi. Now we're going to go to our correspondent, Shelby O'Brien, who's right here in Massachusetts at the Democratic election night party. Shelby, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Faith and Emily. Right now, Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll is speaking behind me. She is talking about being hopeful that the state has just announced that Senator Elizabeth Warren has won here. The room is loud. You can hear multiple cheers and applause as people are raising their signs. And hearing her speak about all of the people who have come out in support of the candidates tonight. Sending it back to the studio.
Thank you so much, Shelby, for that information.
Looks like a very exciting scene down there. Very loud indeed.
Right, and now we're going to have some information from our correspondent, Emily Champagne. Emily, what do you have for us right here for the House?
We're now going to have some information from our House never mind. Sorry. We're going to be talking about the House of Representatives. There are currently 44 close races for the House of Representatives, with 23 of them being Republican and 21 of them being Democrat. During last year's election, the Republicans were able to win the House, having a majority of 220 to 212, with 3 seats vacant. In order for Democrats to take control of the House back, they need to keep all of their current seats but flip 2. There are currently 5 seats up for flipping as of right now: Iowa's District 1 and 3, Nebraska's 2nd District, New York's 19th District, and Pennsylvania's 10th District. For Republicans, on the other hand, they need to flip a seat in either Michigan's 7th District or Arkansas's 1st. In Iowa, incumbent Republican Mariannette Miller Meeks is in a rematch with Democrat Christina Bohannon. Iowa's 1st congressional district could serve as the sleeper swing that Democrats need within a state that has consistently been red. According to active voter registrations throughout the past couple elections, they favored Republicans, with Miller Meeks defeating Bohannon back in 2022 by about 7 percentage points. In this rematch, however, national Democrats have funneled money into Iowa's congressional races in order to capitalize on what they see as Miller Meeks' weaknesses. They hope to change opinions of on-the-fence independents and even some Republicans, helping Democrats gain a seat. And Democratic nominee Landon Backham is being challenged by Republican Zach Nunn. In a House race featuring 2 well-known veterans, this district is anticipated to be the most contested in the state. Back in 2022, Nunn squeaked into office, winning with less than 1 percentage point. In a state where Republicans hold all 4 congressional posts, this may be the Democrats' best chance of flipping a seat they need to take control of the House. What could help them is that since redistricting, the district is now home to some of Iowa's biggest urban metro areas. These are places that tend to vote blue. And holding on to Alaska's sole House seat is key to Democrats regaining control of the House. Incumbent Democrat Mary Peltola narrowly won in 2022, becoming the first Democrat from the state elected into the House since 1972. Democrat Eric Hafner, also running for the seat, is currently serving a 20-year sentence for making false bomb threats and threatening police officers, lawyers, and judges. This is hurting the Democratic campaign, though, and since Hafner is imprisoned in New York and cannot serve if elected, many Democrats are turning to support the independent candidate, John Howe. Many supporting Peltola are trying to encourage voting for Howe in order to decrease the attention towards Republican Nicholas Bajaj. That's all that I have for the House of Representatives. Back to you both at the desk.
That is a lot of very good updates. Thank you. We also have some presidential election updates in other news. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, some of the votes have been beginning to be tabulated, with Kamala Harris currently having 71 Electoral College votes, according to the New York Times, and Donald J. Trump with 101.
Right. We have not seen any information on the battleground states, but we have a long night ahead of us, so hopefully that information is going to come either later today or maybe in the next few days.
Correct. And speaking of updates, we are now going to head over to Addison Brewer, who is in New Hampshire. She is currently at the Republican gubernatorial Kelly Ayotte election night party.
We are here live at the Artisan election party. Right now, tensions are extremely high, as this has been a close election since the very beginning. Following the closure of the polls at 8 p.m., results have swayed between the Republican candidate, Kelly Ayotte, and the Democratic candidate, Joyce Craig. Right now, it appears that Ayotte is taking the lead with a voting percentage of 50%. Right now, everybody seems to be staying pretty hopeful and is hoping to gather tonight for a victory speech from the candidate. Back to you at the desk.
So much, Addison.
Right, now we're going to head down to downtown Boston to our reporter Shelby O'Brien. Shelby, what can you tell us?
Actually, Shelby will not be joining us right now. Instead, we're going to recap a few other things that we've been seeing.
Okay, no worries. Okay, now I think it's looking like we're going to get an update from our correspondent.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
You can achieve a lot using your imagination. I mean, I don't like to brag, but... Wait, who's that? And why is she all over these achievement awards? But with STEM, the sky's the limit. Shaboom! Use STEM to envision... Okay, I'm seeing it. Yeah! Invent...
Got any ideas?
I've got a few, actually. And create a better world.
Told you she's super smart.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for 75 years, he's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet a few who are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Welcome back to the WEBN and Emerson Channel Election Night Special.
Right, so a lot of people have already voted already. You know, according to CNN, 78 billion mail-in ballots were already sent in earlier this week. So
correct. I know in North Carolina, in fact, actually, they exceeded their record for mail-in ballots by Thursday. And that was before early voting ended on Saturday, which is absolutely extraordinary.
Right. So now we're going to head to our WEBN correspondent, Sam Lawrence, who's joined by a panel of 3 political analysts from Emerson College to discuss a few of the biggest topics surrounding this election. Sam, how's it going in the Bona studio?
Thank you, Faith and Emily. We are here live in the Vin DeBona television studio with a team of political panelists who are going to help us break down some of the biggest topics of discussion in tonight's election and provide commentary on their predictions for tonight's winner. Joining us at the table is the Vice President of Emerson's Student Government Association, Kayla Armbruster, the Vice President of the Communications, Politics, and Law Association, Olivia DeCesar, and Marlborough City Councilor Trey Fucillo. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. I'd like to first talk about the political impact of independent voters in the United States. Currently, 43% of registered voters identify as independent, and according to an NBC News national survey, at the end of October, about 4% of voters were still undecided on which candidate they would be voting for. Now, Harris has expressed her desire to work across the aisle with Republicans and has said she'll be a president for all people, even those who do not vote for her. On October 16th, she met with Republicans at a campaign event in Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania, where she said, quote, We are here today because we share a core belief that we must put country before party. She also sat down with former Republican Representative Elizabeth Cheney in Wisconsin to talk about her goals of bipartisan collaboration and answered questions from Republican voters. Donald Trump, in a town hall with Fox News in mid-October, called Democrats, quote, Marxists and communists and fascists, and said, quote, they're sick. He also suggested using the U.S. military to disband any, quote, radical left lunatics on Election Day. Olivia, I'm going to begin with you. When contrasting both candidates' attitudes towards bipartisanship, how do you see them faring with undecided and independent voters tonight?
Well, obviously, both candidates have a very different perspective on bipartisanship. However, when you look at what independent voters are actually caring about, that is their first issue being the economy. However, ABC reported on October 27th. ABC reported October 27th that the third issue that independent voters care about is actually, the state of democracy. And when you look at the different approaches that both candidates have come to, you clearly see, as you previously stated, we see that Harris is looking to form bipartisan cooperation. Routers on October 11th found that she wants to put together a bipartisan council for advisors. Jubilee just 2 days ago had Pete Buttigieg on, and he vouched as well, saying that she's always looking for a correction on what she's planning on doing. She would like to know what she can reroute and what's the best argument against her. Whereas, like you had said, Trump isn't really looking for that cooperation, that bipartisan support. He talks a lot about the enemy from within and critiquing the opposing side rather than looking for some type of middle ground. So when I see both candidates and how they're trying to get independent votes, we see Trump banking on the economy, whereas Harris is actually trying to appeal to people on both sides.
What do you think about this?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Kamala Harris has laid out a plan to the American people that she is willing to put forth a bipartisan effort. I think you saw this in the Biden-Harris administration, specifically with the immigration bill that they were trying to pass, right? Very bold legislation, bipartisan legislation to get both, Senate and House Republicans on board with their agenda. Now, I do think that there's a lot of undecided voters, and I was at the polls all morning out in my hometown in Marlborough, Massachusetts, and those who were entering the polls as independents and undecideds really weren't feeling that bipartisan nature that I do agree with, but for some reason there's a disconnect. And that's
from Harris?
From the Harris campaign and also from the Trump campaign. And I think that's why they're still feeling this sense that there's not a candidate in the race for them.
Yeah. I'm going to move to now social media and its impact in the election. We have seen both presidential candidates use social media as a way of reaching out to younger voters, and their tactics have thrusted Gen Z directly into the political sphere. Kamala Harris's team runs Kamala HQ, which currently has 1.1 million followers on Instagram, and Donald Trump's team operates Team Trump, which has 3.7 million followers on Instagram. Similarly, on TikTok, both candidates have millions of followers, but Trump has over 2 times as many as Harris. Despite their gap in followers, Harris has gone viral several times with various memes, including her coconut army trend that swarmed social media after her remarks at a White House ceremony for educational equity in 2023. Kayla, how has social media made this election unique from years past, and what kind of an impact will it have on its outcome tonight?
Yeah, Sam. I think we're pretty much long gone from the days where voters are now having to go out to find their candidates, where they're having to go out to their campaigns, where they can only look at the 3 main news sources. Those days are very much behind us. And now presidents have to go to the voters. They have to go where the voters are. They have to go on their favorite podcasts, on their favorite TV shows, and of course on social media. That's where everyone is. They have to go into the households. They have to go to the TVs and, of course, your phones, especially because that's where the young voters are, which is such a huge demographic for both parties. And as a Gen Z voter myself, I do not think of Kamala's campaign without thinking of Kamala HQ, as you voided out, without thinking of the coconut meme, without thinking of Kamala is brat. Those things are just kind of synonymous with us and her campaign. And I mean, same with Trump. I don't think about Trump without thinking Truth Social and without thinking about his tirades on Twitter. They're kind of synonymous with that. I think they play a huge role into pushing those youth voters and directly targeting the youth voters as well, because they are such a huge population. The youth voters make up about 40 million votes, so I totally see this changing the outcome of the election.
Do you think it could have a negative effect on Harris as well, with maybe people thinking of it more as some sort of mockery or something like that, thinking she's becoming serious from all these jokes, especially when she kind of leans into them a lot?
Yes, 100%. I can see this also be a pitfall, with some could say, especially in the term of older voters, because a lot of older voters don't take those news media outlets as seriously as they do CBS, as they do Fox News. Even though, in my personal opinion, as a Gen Z voter, they are definitely as serious and they are valid forms of journalism. And they're a great way to connect with those voters that primarily view those things, especially the Call Her Daddy episode. We saw that get knocked pretty hard for Kamala because a lot of people just don't take that platform seriously as journalism, even though that's what it is.
Well, you also have Elon Musk on Twitter giving Trump a really huge platform. Olivia, did you have something to mention about that?
So I think it's easy for us to get caught in the bubble and really look at like the HQ accounts, but we see right now with Elon Musk and Donald Trump's kind of partnership that there is a huge boost in Trump's outreach on Twitter, or X now. I don't think I'll ever get used to that. But The Guardian reported in October 18th of this year that, Elon and Trump have been working together pretty much on Twitter, and Elon's Twitter feed, which is being pushed by the algorithms on to everyone's accounts, even people who don't necessarily follow him or don't want to see him, that have become pretty much just campaign rhetoric of pushing what Trump is basically just another mouthpiece for him. And they're even using features like the notifications of the app to be pushing the campaign. So while I do think that Harris definitely benefited from social media, I think the beginning of her campaign needed social media to get that fresh start and the excitement built up. But I don't think we should underestimate how much Trump is benefiting from social media as well.
Well, when you're also speaking of these media tours, kind of making your personality more known to voters, this has kind of been a tactic used by both Harris and Trump to try to maybe move past policy and try to become more personable with the people that are going to be showing up for them when they're voting. So some voters, for example, choose to distance themselves from Trump's larger-than-life personality but stand behind his economic plans. But his calls for a mass deportation of undocumented immigrants recently has scared some economists for fears of how it would lead to higher prices and less workers. Similarly with Harris, her recent press tour in October did help establish her personality with voters and outline her general goals for the presidency, but it also raised questions about some of her more specific policies in regards to immigration and the war in Gaza. So, Trey, when voting for these candidates, do you think it is important to separate their personal character from their policies, or do the two intertwine with one another too heavily?
Sure. I think it's a great question, Sam. And I'm going to quote, every political person's favorite show, The West Wing. In season 7, Jed Bartlett and Alan Alda's character, the Republican nominee at the time, have a conversation over some ice cream about what voters get to do, how they get to decide, how they're going to vote. And Jed Bartlett, the fictional president, says to him, he goes, "It's not up to us as candidates to decide what the people get to use in evaluating us." And whether or not we agree with that, I think it echoes what's happening right now, and it's incredibly true. It's up to each individual voter as to whether or not they're going to focus on policy positions, character. Is it something a candidate said in 2016 that's going to prevent them from backing that candidate in 2020 or 2024, or vice versa? Is it a policy that they really have a hard time getting over? Is there a maverick issue that they can't compromise on?
Well, do you also think character kind of leads to policy, character influences policy in
I
that
think
way?
it can. I really do. I think it does in a lot of ways. I think people's lived experience is what creates good policy, and in my personal opinion, I think we have to humanize policy. Where do these things come from? And most of the time they come from human events, just like a Supreme Court case, right? Where does it come from? It comes from somebody who has faced some sort of injustice, and now it's going to the highest court in the land. I think that's how policy is supposed to be. I don't think it's always how it is, but it's how it should be.
Thank you, Trey. I'm going to move on now to the issue of women's reproductive freedoms in the United States. According to a Pew Research poll in 2024, 57% of Republican voters and 85% of Democratic voters believe that abortion should be legal in all or some cases. Trump has defended the Dobbs Supreme Court decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade, and in a 2023 social media post, he wrote, quote, "After 50 years of failure, with nobody even coming close, I was able to kill Roe v. Wade." Trump packed the Supreme Court with two conservative Supreme Court justices, Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh, and with a conservative majority, the court overturned the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that constitutionally solidified a woman's right to receive an abortion. So to everyone on the panel, how will the issue of a woman's right to choose influence voters in this election? And is it a winning issue for Harris, or does Trump's staunch pro-life stance appeal to voters?
I'll take it.
Thank you. So I definitely believe that Harris, just by a landslide, wins on this issue. We saw in the 2022 midterm elections that people and women really got out to vote based off of this issue. And as the first presidential election now, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I definitely foresee that this is going to be a strong issue. And even if you don't buy the Ann Seltzer poll that came out recently about Iowa, I think the information in that poll was incredibly important, that women do care about this issue and women are willing to vote on this issue, even older women. Like, this is a huge issue for this election.
And it's one of the biggest issues we are going to be talking about tonight. We're going to toss it back to the JPC right now, but later we are going to have a lot more on that issue and many more. So Faith and Emily, how is the night going? What are you guys seeing? Are there more updates with states?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sam. Faith and I just got word, actually, from the Associated Press that Democratic candidate John Stein just won in North Carolina.
Correct. Yeah, Josh Stein, according to AP, has just won. He is the Democratic Attorney General, and he's positioned himself somewhat as a moderate throughout his race. He really campaigned on education and abortion rights, two things that really hit home to voters there. And North Carolina has been a very interesting swing state to watch. In fact, one that we're watching very closely for the presidential election, as the road to the White House likely will lead somewhat through there. And there's going to be a lot more updates, but the fact that Josh Stein has just secured his victory, that does makes you wonder whether or not this state is going to lead red or blue for the presidential election.
Right. You know, we're going to keep a close eye on that battleground state.
Yes, and 15 states, in fact, are closing their polls this evening at 9. These states include Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, Texas, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. The 9 p.m. closing time is crucial in this election, as it includes 3 out of the 7 swing states. Unions deployed thousands of canvassers across battleground states, just like the ones I mentioned, in a final push to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Union workers are projected to play a key role in deciding the outcome of the 2024 presidential election, particularly in battleground states. According to the UAW polling, 1 in 5 voters across Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania live in households with at least one active or retired union member. The American Federation of Teachers sent hundreds of members from neighboring states to Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. There, workers went door to door, targeting the homes and work sites of known members. Additional strategies include aggressive call, text, and email campaigns. Meanwhile, other groups have followed suit, including the United Auto Workers. The UAW's 6-week strike in 2023 gave both candidates a platform to discuss their labor policies. Harris said that she will strengthen unions, even promising to pass the PRO Act, which makes it easier for workers to organize. Trump, however, has historically supported measures that weaken unions. During his presidency, he backed the right to work laws, which allowed workers to opt out of paying union dues.
There are more demographic groups that are pushing for Kamala Harris to win. In the past few years, women have made up a large amount of the electorate in the presidential election. With women's reproductive rights up at stake, Democrats are hoping women will be voting for Harris. She's also projected to be the first Democrat since former Vice President Al Gore's bid in 2000 to win voters 65 and older. Their vote is crucial to upstake Trump's strength with white non-college voters. The AP is also projecting that former President Donald Trump has won the state of Florida, and its 30 electoral votes, Trump has 56% of the votes, while Vice President Kamala Harris has 43%. That brings Trump to 101 electoral votes to Harris's 71.
And Donald Trump has won South Carolina, leaving him in the lead with 101 electoral votes, and Kamala Harris with 71.
According to CNN, Trump is ahead with 105 points, with Harris at 27 points. Trump is favored in 10 states, with Harris is favored in 8.
We now head back to Addison Brewer, who joins us from New Hampshire. She's currently at the Republican gubernatorial candidate party, Kelly Ayottes, in fact, election night party. Addison? We're actually going to come back to Addison after the break, and we're going to hear all about some other current ballot issues from our correspondent.
And we're also going to take a look at question number 5 on the Massachusetts ballot.
Stay tuned.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt. I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Jules, spotlight on this last one. There it is.
Keep going with it. Leo. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Live election special.
And now we're going to get some few updates. We're going to also get a few check-ins from our live correspondents in a few places.
Yes, we now go to Addison Brewer, who joins us from New Hampshire. She's currently at Republican gubernatorial candidate Kelly Ayottes' election night party. Addison? Our correspondent from the Union Bank Bill Bordy Theater on the line. Beilu, how's it going down there?
We're going pretty good down here. You know, we are playing the waiting game tonight. Students have been trickling in and out. And you know, I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of them, and the main feeling going on right now is stress and anxiety. But you know, to alleviate that stress, there's food, there's drinks. Students are, coloring, talking to each other, and, trying to make light of this, stressful situation for them. That's all I have for you right now, but back to you guys.
Thanks so much, Beilu. All right, very exciting things happening down there on our Emerson College campus. That's in downtown Boston, folks.
Right, we have a lot of new voters today, so I'm pretty sure they're very eager tonight to get some votes in and see who's going to win this election.
Yes, absolutely. Again, very slow, very steady. We might not know this evening, but then again, there is a chance. Things always happen, you know. In a race this close, there's always a margin of error. So we'll be keeping a very close eye, again, on those swing states, those battleground areas.
Yes, and we're definitely going to hear more from Belu and the rest of our Emerson College family around here. So
yeah, you know what? Something I found really interesting in this race. I was at a conference this weekend in Washington, D.C. Somebody called it the Vibes election. There was a polling analyst there. And I thought it was really interesting because a lot of the things we're talking about that have been driving voters, particularly young voters, to the poll are really people we're seeing who are voting based on their values, you know. All of those are quite aligned, but they do represent each other in different ways. We have things like abortion on the ticket. There are 4 states for statewide elections that have marijuana on the ticket. Obviously, people advocating for things like gun laws. So lots of ballot issues, and we're actually going to chat more about that. We have our correspondent, Vani, who is in Tufty Studios right now, and Vani Hanamiran is going to tell us a little bit more about some key ballot issues across the country. Vani, what do you have for us?
Hi, Faith. Today we're going to talk about Massachusetts ballot issues. These are a huge topic of discussion this election. There are 5 matters that people can vote on during the election: auditor authority, MCAS test, rideshare drivers, psychedelic drugs, and minimum wage tips. These issues are currently being voted on, and the results will come out tonight. Let's take an in-depth look at each of these issues. The first question on the ballot is the proposed law that would specify that the state auditor would have the authority to audit the legislature. A yes vote would mean that the state auditor is given this authority. The second question on the ballot focuses on the MCAS test. The MCAS, or Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System tests, are a requirement for Massachusetts high schoolers to graduate. This test focuses on mathematics, science, English, and technology. The proposed ballot question would allow students to not take the test, but instead complete coursework and pass their classes that meet state standards. Any other additional steps they need to take to graduate would be determined by the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. The third ballot question deals with rideshare drivers, proposing that transportation network drivers would be allowed to form unions and bring up topics like wage, working conditions, and benefits. This would eliminate unfair work practices and environments. The union would be allowed to bargain with the transportation network companies. There would be no requirement for workers to join the union, but would allow them the option to if they wanted to. This ballot question would improve working conditions for rideshare drivers and provide them with a network to work together. The fourth question on the ballot proposes a law that would allow a person of 21 or older to grow and possess and use natural certain psychedelic substances in certain circumstances. The substances in question are found in both mushrooms and plants. If passed, this would allow businesses to get licensed and sell and regulate these substances, while also allowing each city and town to make their own rules on the operations. It would also allow a 15% tax to these substances. The final question on the ballot would propose that employers must pay a tipped worker a minimum hourly wage in addition to the money that they would make on tips. This would be implemented over 5 years, at which point employers are allowed to pool the tips together and distribute them. These ballot issues are all to be decided tonight. The Massachusetts votes are coming in, and we will keep you updated throughout the night. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey openly shared how she plans to vote on each of these Massachusetts ballot questions this year. Healey said she is unsure about 2 of the ballot measures as of now, but is thinking about question 3 and question 4 regarding Uber and Lyft driver unions and the legalization of certain psychedelics. Healey is very clear on where she stands on question 5. Healey worked as a waiter in her teen years, and for this reason, she is voting no on ballot question 5, which would allow tip workers to make an hourly wage. Healey believes that this is good for businesses, and certain restaurants would have to close if implemented. In an interview with Boston Public Radio, she said that she has spoken directly with businesses that would either have to have layoffs or close if they were forced to pay an hourly wage to their workers. As for question 1 regarding audits to state legislature, Healey told GBH News, quote, "I'll leave that to the voters," end quote. She remained silent on how she plans to cast her vote on the matter. Healey opposed question 2, which, if approved, would take away the graduation requirement of the MCAS test. This is something she believes is important for students. Her votes on these ballot issues go against some major figures in the Democratic Party, such as Senator Elizabeth Warren and former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Despite this, Haley is clear on where she stands for most of these issues, and we will see if her votes align with those of the Massachusetts people tonight. That's all for now. I'll be back with more updates. Back to you at the JPC.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. We go now to Addison Brewer-Hay, who joins us from New Hampshire. She's currently at Republican gubernatorial candidate Kelly Ayotte's election night party. Addison, how's it going?
Tensions have begun to turn to excitement here at the Artisan Hotel as Kelly Ayotte maintains the lead, winning around 50.3% of the state's votes currently. Right now, supporters are anxiously awaiting her arrival and are hoping to be able to celebrate a victory with her tonight, while the race remains extremely close. Thank you. Back to you at the desk.
Yes, very close indeed. Very close. And both candidates have focused on winning over younger voters. Their campaign teams have adapted to social media trends, and celebrity endorsements have become a huge thing. Here's reporter Tony Ciano with more insight on what Gen Z thinks.
The 2024 election is the first time many Generation Z voters have been able to vote in a major U.S. election. Many Generation Z members believe that their votes hold importance in this election. These voters are very passionate about who they want to vote for. Boston University student Fabiola Alanis discussed her choosing process between the two 2024 presidential candidates.
Personally, it just really came down to my own values and what I believe in, and I support women, I support trans people, I support, immigrants. So for me, it was a very easy choice, to decide who I see in the government that would also support that.
Jared Famasian, a student at Emerson College, emphasized why he thinks Generation Z voting is so important.
I think we should vote because it's our right, it's our democratic right, and it'll help move the country forward.
For both Jared and Fabiola, voting as a member of Generation Z holds importance to them as they desire to make a difference in the world.
Generation Z voters, like Jared, are excited to cast their votes in their first major U.S. election. From the Museum of Fine Arts, I'm Anthony Ciano, WEBN Boston.
Thank you so much, Tony. That is very interesting. Gen Z is, in fact, playing a huge role in this election and could potentially affect the outcome of all of the swing states that we've been talking about.
Right, they've had a close eye all summer long. They've definitely been part of this election season a lot more than the past few years.
Yes, and unfortunately, we do have some breaking news. There have been more threats made to election offices around the country. In fact, according to the New York Times, one election office in Arizona has been evacuated and has been closed, so we will continue to follow that story. In the meantime, we're going to head to a commercial break. After the break, stay tuned. We're going to hear from our swing state correspondent, so we'll be right back.
Roll over. Can't high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Oh, hey!
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me! Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
WEBN broadcast.
Yes, we have more exciting news coming up. We actually just got word that Donald J. Trump has won the state of Texas. It's been called for him by the Associated Press, and that gives him 40 more Electoral College votes.
Right. Right now, Trump is at 177 and Kamala is at 99. So, they're a little far apart right now, but we still have a few more states to go.
Correct. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about some other states in the Northwest coming up. We're going to talk about Chatham County, which is a county in Washington State. So let's chat a little bit about that. All right, the eyes of the nation rest on a handful of bellwether towns and swing states this evening, but far west of states like Arizona, one county in Washington has gained a reputation for predicting the outcome of the presidential election. Clallam County, for the past 100 years, has voted for the successful candidate in all but 2 races. This includes the last 11 consecutive elections from 1980 until now. But an election even this close, even Clallam County isn't a crystal ball. As national polls continue to show near split support for Trump and Harris, the county has reflected the same trend. Regardless of which direction Clallam swings in this election, it will not have an impact on the Blue Wall State, but we'll be sure to check back soon as the results could, again, predict who the 47th President of the United States is.
In the last few days, former President Donald Trump has made claims of election malfeasances. These claims are similar to his defeat to Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Trump has focused his allegations in the state of Pennsylvania after the discovery of suspected fraudulent voter registration applications were found in York and Lancaster County. Election officials responded and said law enforcement will be investigating. As of right now, there has been no evidence of cheating, and election officials have continued to discredit any misinformation.
And Wisconsin polls favor Harris as she leads by 1.1% ahead of Trump, with Trump at 47.7% and Harris at 48.8%. Wisconsin also has a history of fluctuating between favored parties. It supported Democratic candidates from 1988 and then had the period where it was supporting Republican candidates, and that went on for quite some time. We go now to Hong-Yi Ji, who has the latest update on swing states. Hong-Yi? All right, in fact, we'll come back. About young voters. In fact, we can talk all about our entire voting population, a lot of which, 80% of which, decided who their candidate was going to be before September.
Yes, a lot of people already knew who they were voting for, but we still had a few people on the crisp cut. There's been a huge gender gap this election season. We have major groups like women who are 50 and older supporting for Kamala. We also have those who are educated in terms of college or not, and they're also a big group when it comes to Trump and also Kamala as well. Yeah, it's been really interesting how in just 90 days, that's what Kamala's campaign has really been, how she's been able to capture a party or group that Democrats as a party have kind of been unable to tap into, that over 65 white, female, predominantly suburban group. And she's really captured them. That could be her key, like we talked about, in a lot of battleground states. It's going to be very interesting. Perfect. So we're now going to go back to Shelby O'Brien to see what's happening right here in a party in Boston.
As the night has gone on, more and more people have begun to filter into the room. The first round of speakers just finished up. On stage, they were expressing their gratitude for all of the people here in Massachusetts who have come out and vote for Senator Elizabeth Warren. They also expressed their gratitude to the volunteers and people who have gone out door to door canvassing, really getting people out to vote. Right now, the crowd is gathered waiting for the next round of speakers, but we will come back to you when there's more.
Yep. All right, very interesting. Lots happening down there with Shelby too. Thank you so much, Shelby. Anyways, let's chat a little bit more. We should have more updates coming through soon for swing states. I know almost every single swing state, actually, in fact, except for Nevada, has their polls closed, meaning that we should start at least having more of a sense for the Senate and the House for those elections. Again, presidential might not be called this evening.
Yes, you know, Trump already has a few electoral votes from those red key states. Kamala already has Maryland. She also got Illinois recently, so we're still looking up a bit. We still have a few more states to go. Hopefully we get more information on that soon. We do have a swing state correspondent we're gonna hear from soon.
Yes, correct. And you know, another interesting thing we can point to is we're really keeping our eye on Iowa, and up until just yesterday, really, we didn't think that Iowa would go to anybody except Trump, except for when recent polling was released this morning that showed Kamala Harris was leading by 3 points, which was unexpected and is somewhat unprecedented, at least for the past decade.
Yeah, of course.
Soon we'll head over to Hong Yi with the latest update on swing states. You ready for us, Hong Yi? How's it going?
It's going great, Faith. Welcome back to Swing State segment, and here's more coverage on swing state. Wisconsin polls favor Harris as she leads by 1.1% ahead of Trump, with Trump at 47.7% and Harris at 48.8%. Wisconsin also has a history of fluctuating between favored parties. Next one on the, actually we're gonna turn our gear to Michigan, next one on the docket, where Kamala Harris led with 48.6% of the vote compared to Donald Trump's 46.8%, giving Harris a 1.8% lead. Michigan has always been a swing state, supporting Republican candidates from 1972 to 1988 before shifting to Democratic candidates from 1992 to 2012. In a dramatic twist, in 2016, Michigan narrowly swung to Donald Trump by a thin margin. But in the most recent elections, the state returned to supporting Joe Biden. Michigan voters care about several key issues that shape their voting preferences. First and foremost is economic revitalization in the manufacturing and automobile industry. Michigan, synonymous with automotive industry, has cities like Detroit that were once the heart of American manufacturing sector. The decline of the industry has had a significant impact on the state, making policies that promise to revitalize manufacturing and protect auto industry jobs highly important to voters. Second is healthcare accessibility remain crucial concern. Third is infrastructure improvement, especially after the Flint water crisis. And that's it for swing states.
We really appreciate that update. Thank you so much, Hongi. We really appreciate that update. We're now going to swing back over to Shelby O'Brien, who's right now at a conference with Elizabeth Warren. Shelby, what can you tell us?
Right behind me, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who has just won her third term, is speaking. Let's go live.
I am grateful down to my toes that you are sending me back to the Senate to fight for you. I never thought that I would be in politics. I was happy as a teacher and a researcher, but because of you, I moved from being a policy nerd, and let's give it up for policy nerds. From being only a policy nerd to becoming a policy nerd and full-time fighter to give everyone in our Commonwealth and our country a fighting chance to build a future. And my pledge to the people of Massachusetts, I will always fight hard for you, always. years, we've heard from plenty of experts who told us about what wouldn't be possible. Then we went out and got it done anyway. You bet. Hard to remember, but 12 years ago, lots of experts and insiders said Massachusetts would never elect a woman to the United States Senate. At least not in our lifetimes. We proved them wrong. And we taught ourselves that no matter the odds stacked against you, it's always worth it to get in the fight. Now, those same experts and insiders also said candidates could never run a campaign without money from corporate super PACs. We proved them wrong again, and we financed our campaigns from the grassroots. Even more experts and insiders said, okay, we won, but progress will be slow to impossible, so go small. But together, we demonstrated that we can make change, big change. And here is where it really gets to be fun. We beat Big Pharma and now we have $35 insulin. We've capped out-of-pocket prescription drug costs and Medicare can now negotiate lower drug prices. We beat big oil and passed the most ambitious climate legislation in history. Oh, and better yet, we paid for it with my plan for a minimum tax on billionaire corporations. And now, Amazon and other billionaire corporations are paying for our investments in a greener, cleaner America. We beat the big banks on Wall Street and we cracked down on overdraft and junk fees. I led the charge to create the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And now, with a cop on the beat, big banks have been forced to return more than $20 billion directly to consumers they cheated. That CFPB has survived every attack, and I got news for Wall Street. The CFPB is here to stay. We got billions of dollars for roads, bridges, broadband, Cape Cod bridges, East-West rail, and enough help so that even when our economy was hit by COVID, Massachusetts towns didn't have to lay off a single teacher, firefighter, police officer, librarian, town clerk, or anyone else who served our communities. And look, we need to do more, but make no mistake, every one of these accomplishments is living proof that we can make government work for people. So here's my message to the voters of Massachusetts. My name was on the ballot, but this election is about you and the work we still need to do. So let me say it loud and proud. I love you too. Daddy, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, I see you and fight for you. We are going to make childcare affordable for every family and available in every community. And we're going to raise right for you. We need more housing. And to
Thank you so much, Shelby. We're now going to go to Elise de Sa Fonseca in the Bordy Theater for updates. Elise, what do you have for us?
Yes, thank you. Everything is going well here at the Bill Bordy Theater. As you can see right behind me, we have the big production on the big screen. We're showing live updates state by state. Students are on the ground floor watching, and on the upper floor here, all sitting down with their laptops out, their phones in hand, scrolling through social media, seeing what those celebrities are posting, and they're all standing up, taking pictures and posting photos with the I Voted stickers. That's all that I have for you at the moment. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Lise. Very exciting. Some people getting I Voted stickers for the very first time. We're now going to go to our fellow student, Vani, who has updates on ballot issues. Vani is coming at us from Tufty. Vani, how's it going?
It's going well, Faith. Thank you. The University of New Hampshire did a poll showing where Massachusetts voters stand on different ballot issues and predicting how they believe voters will cast their votes on each question. The poll showed that on question 1 regarding the audit of the state legislature and question 3 regarding rideshare drivers' right to unionize, those are likely to pass. Many voters in Massachusetts, according to the poll, plan on voting yes on these 2 ballot questions. It is also likely that question 4 regarding psychedelic drugs to be used is likely to pass as well. Question 2 and 5 are currently split votes. Many voters are unsure about where they stand on these matters, and it is still unclear whether or not they will pass. Question 2 regards the MCAS exam in high schools as a graduation requirement, and question 5 is about minimum wage for tip-based workers. There are over 150 ballot measures in the United States, ranging from crime, immigration, funding for private schools, and hunting. The most popular ones are focusing on minimum wage, salary, and economics. This issue is raised in Massachusetts, Arizona, and voting for minimum wage people who work based on tips. Another key issue is voting for rights for non-citizens. 8 states, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and South Carolina, and Wisconsin are voting to ban non-citizens from voting. Cannabis and the drug policy is a huge topic for many states. Arkansas, Florida, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota are working on loosening restrictions on the drug, while voters in North Dakota and South Dakota will vote on whether to legalize marijuana for adults. This is the 3rd time this will be on the ballot. Some states are working on same-sex marriage. California, Colorado, and Hawaii all have ballot measures that would codify the right for people of all genders to marry under the state law. California's Prop 3 will remove a sentence banning same-sex marriage added to the state constitution by the 2008 amendment that came before voters as Prop 8. 9 states, along with Washington, D.C., are voting to decide whether open primary election systems are designed to reduce partisanship. These are just a few of the many issues presented on this year's ballot. That's all I have for ballot issue news tonight. Thank you for watching.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother I am totally a hat person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey!
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3.
You saved me! Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear. Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
The New York Times, we just found out that Trump has a narrow but clear-cut chance of getting Georgia and North Carolina.
Yes, very interesting. It seems now that Harris would need to sweep at least Pennsylvania. We're going to head over to Noah Berkowitz for the latest polling news. He's currently in the JPC. Noah, what other states would Harris have to win, and does this all mean that it's a decisive win entirely for Trump? All right, well, actually, in fact, we're going to wait for Noah to come back. He's waiting for a little bit more results. So actually, I did get word from him, though, that Harris would have to take Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin in a landslide victory in order to still have a chance at the electorate. So we're going to be keeping our eye on all of those states. Pennsylvania, again, could take a little while to come in. And if the margin of error is within 0.5 points, that might count for a recount.
No, really, we do have to look at these battleground states. You know, Trump has so far been taking the lead up to around 50 or more so electoral votes. So these big states are really going to count at the last end of the day if Kamala is going to have a chance to win.
Absolutely. Very interesting things coming out of North Carolina and Georgia. Again, they haven't officially been called, but it's looking like Trump has a definitive lead. I think it's somewhere around 80% of votes in Georgia have been cast so far. Again, that's a state that Biden was able to really turn blue in 2020, but it seems that the Democrats have lost their footing in that battleground state.
Yeah, and the voting definitely has been really interesting in states like Georgia. Just earlier today, Georgia had over 5 bomb threats, but, you know, investigators were able to check that through, and there was no clear of any risk or happening, so the votes were all in, but, you know, it's always definitely a big chance and risk of having events like that happening.
Absolutely. And let's see, is our correspondent Noah ready? Noah Berkowitz, I believe.
Perfect.
Don't believe so yet.
No worries. He's still taking chance of that polling, making sure he's getting all those results coming up.
Yes, very interesting. Earlier in the show, we mentioned how a big point for voters was abortion. Now in Florida, where that statewide issue was on the ballot, it seems that it has failed. The defeat is a huge win for Governor DeSantis, who is a very, very obvious pro-life supporter. He has repeatedly condemned the right to choose in his state, and it comes as the cost of a very well-funded campaign, in fact, against that.
Right. We don't know if Trump is going to win that Florida state yet, but in terms of abortion laws, it's looking like it's going to lean towards red. So
actually, in fact, we just got a call from the AP that Florida has been secured by Trump. That is one of the other states that has contributed to his electoral count so far. And I believe the total thus far for the presidential race is Harris with 99 electoral votes and Trump with 178.
Yeah, you know, they still have almost 100 left to go, and we still have that coming up.
Yes, very interesting. We're going to see what the latest we have in New Hampshire is. We have correspondents there. I believe Allison is still there in New Hampshire. Allison, what do you have for us?
Kelly Ayotte is expected to make her appearance here at the Artisan Hotel shortly, as polls closed approximately an hour and a half ago here in New Hampshire. While the race remains extremely tight, Ayotte is still maintaining a lead of around 50.1% of the state's votes. Until a final call is made by the AP, everybody here seems to be maintaining a pretty lively and hopeful spirit. Thank you, and back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Addison. Very interesting. All right. There's a lot going on right now. Obviously, New Hampshire is still very much in the air with a lot of respects. So we are going to head over to Noah, who is going to have the latest for us on polling now. Noah, what do you have?
How's it going? So we've got a couple key updates. So in Florida, first of all, obviously Trump has carried that state, but there is a major swing from 2020 to 2024. Now in 2024, Trump is carrying that state by almost 13 points more than he did last election cycle, where he won by just 3 points. And on top of that, he also won Miami-Dade County. He's the first Republican candidate to win Miami-Dade County since 1988. Now, that's multiple decades back that we have to go. 1988, the last time a Republican candidate had won Miami-Dade County. Moving on top of that as well, as you were saying, Faith, Florida rather, was indeed voted nay on protecting abortion rights. And then in Georgia and North Carolina, it's for the first time all day, the New York Times has shifted their needle towards predicting a Trump victory, both in North Carolina and in Georgia. But we're going to have to stay tuned for some more of those polling. You'll come back to me in a little bit for more.
Thank you so much, Noah. Again, very interesting, and it's a very complicated route, obviously, to the White House, and it's just a race to 270, basically.
Basically, yeah. You know, we're still almost there. I think Trump has, a few, 80 left. Kamala has to still get maybe a little bit more over 100, but she's coming there soon.
Yeah, in fact, the latest count is 99 Harris, 178 Trump, but we have an exciting feature. Our reporter Avery Morin sat down earlier this week. They did a feature package with Marianges Solis Cervera, Boston's Chief of Equity and Inclusion. Here's the story. Tony, is the package playing?
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
You can achieve a lot using your imagination. I mean, I don't like to brag, but... Wait, who's that? And why is she all over these achievement awards? But with STEM, the sky's the limit. Shaboom! Use STEM to envision... Okay, I'm seeing it. Yeah. Invent...
Got any ideas?
I've got a few, actually. And create a better world.
Told you she's super smart.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for 75 years, he's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet if you are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener and loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Welcome back, and we're now going to go to Madison Madison Lucchese in the bonus studio for an update on the Senate. There are 30. So Madison, what do you have from us right now?
There are 34 senatorial races tonight with 2 special elections. The Democrats currently hold the majority in the Senate with 51 seats. For the Senate to flip to a Republican majority, the Republicans need to win the presidency and 2 Senate seats, or win 3 seats but not the presidency. For the Democrats to maintain control of the Senate, they need to keep all of their current seats without any seats flipping. However, the West Virginia senatorial seat is expected to flip to the Republican candidate, who has a 34-point lead in the polls. The races in Arizona, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Montana, and Nebraska are considered toss-ups, with less than 3% differences between the candidates in the polls. The seats in Florida and Texas are expected to stay Republican, while seats in Pennsylvania and Nevada are expected to stay Democratic. New Jersey elected America's first Korean-American senator tonight. Congressman Andy Kim is the Democratic candidate and the declared winner. Republican candidate is real estate developer Curtis Bashaw. George Helmy became the interim caretaker of the New Jersey seat after Bob Menendez resigned for being convicted of 16 counts of bribery. Ohio and Wisconsin have 2 of the closest senatorial races this election cycle. Democrat Sharon Brown is the incumbent senatorial candidate in Ohio. Bernie Moreno, a Trump-backed businessman, is running against Brown. This is the 3rd senatorial race Brown and Moreno face off in, with Brown winning the last 2 races. Currently, Moreno leads Brown by 2 points at the polls. In Wisconsin, Democrat Tammy Baldwin is seeking re-election for her 3rd term. Republican businessman Eric Hovde is running for the first time. The Wisconsin seat is considered a key race, affecting whether or not the Democrats maintain control of the Senate. Baldwin has a 2-point lead over Hovde in Texas. In Texas, civil rights lawyer and politician Colin Allred is running against Republican incumbent candidate Ted Cruz. Cruz is seeking his 3rd term. If elected, Allred would be the state's first black senator, the first Democratic senator to be elected in Texas since 1988, and the first Democrat to win a state election since 1994. This Texas seat is considered the Democrats' best chance to flip a seat during this election cycle. Due to this, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York donated $5 million to Allred's campaign. Leading up to tonight, the race has been increasingly close, with Cruz leading by 3 points in the polls. Currently, Cruz has a 6-point lead with 59% of votes counted. Bernie Sanders seeks a 4th term as Vermont senator. Sanders is 83 years old and will be 89 at the next senatorial election. His challenger, Republican Gerald Malloy, is an Army veteran and has worked with allied nations at all levels of government. The 62-year-old campaigned with the slogan, "Deploy Malloy." This Vermont seat has never been filled by a Democrat, although Sanders, who is a part of the Independent Party, caucuses with the Democratic Party. In Vermont's primary election, Sanders received 66% of votes over Malloy's 25%. Sanders is the declared winner of the Vermont Senate seat. I'll be back with more Senate news later tonight. Back to you, Faith and Emily at the desk.
Thanks so much, Madison. Now, Vermont's Republican governor has voted for a Democrat. Governor Phil Scott told WCAX he voted for Kamala Harris earlier this evening, saying he came to the decision after some soul searching. It's not the first time Scott has crossed party lines in an election, as he voted for President Joe Biden back in 2020.
And Kamala Harris is said to be watching the live election results from her alma mater, Howard University in Washington, D.C. Harris graduated from Howard in 1986 with a degree in political science and economics. Harris has reportedly kept close ties with the university since graduating and during her vice presidency. The university's president, Ben Vinson, said it is first time in modern history that the school will be hosting a presidential election watch party.
In New York's Madison Square Garden and Harris on the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. But in the past few days, they made sure to still appear on people's TV, cell phones, and computers. An analysis by the New York Times and the tracking firm Ad Impact found common themes among both candidates. Kamala's ads focused on economy, legal abortions, and the outcomes if Trump were to win, while Trump has placed the emotion of fear to the viewer. Trump's campaign ads have stated Kamala created the border crisis and will now not fix it. We'll now be going back to Shelby O'Brien in Boston with an update at the Mass Democrats election party. Okay.
All right. Actually, we're going to stay tuned on that. We're not quite yet heading to Shelby. Very interesting, though. So we have two more swing states that we're taking a look at. We're looking at Arizona and we're looking at Nevada. Now, none of those votes have started to be counted yet. However, a fair share in a number of other swing states have. In fact, Georgia, like we talked about, that seems to be called for Trump, is reporting 77% of votes. But other states like Michigan, for example, only 13% of votes. Very interesting. However, Shelby is going to give us a great update from the Massachusetts Democratic Party. She is there where just moments ago we heard from Elizabeth Warren, who was just elected over her competitor, John Deaton. Shelby, what else do you have for us? How's the environment?
We have just finished hearing from Senator Elizabeth Warren as she gave her acceptance speech. Right now I'm standing with Massachusetts resident Tracy Vickery. Tracy, what are your thoughts about hearing from Elizabeth Warren?
Well, I think it's wonderful that she reminds everyone how critical it is that we need some balance. I think that's one of the reasons why we are struggling as a nation, is we have, there's clearly an imbalance. And so I love that she represents us so well in so many aspects, but especially for women too, which I really appreciate.
Now, she spoke a lot about the issues happening tonight. What really struck home for you in terms of the issues that she was talking about?
I think that, to me, when it comes to home ownership, that's one of the things that bothers me. I love the fact that the Democrats are concerned about that. One of the things I'm hoping is that they'll end up passing Senator Merkley in Oregon's stop hedge funds from owning homes. They own 30% of our housing right now, and that bill would force them to sell them off slowly and limit the amount that they could own. And I really hope that at some point something like that passes, because I think it's a huge issue, and I'm glad that she addressed that.
Now, in the broader scope, speaking about the presidential election, how are you feeling with where things are in the races and the polls?
Well, they haven't called it yet in a lot of the states. I'm hoping that as they move west, there'll be more electoral college votes. But, it's nerve-wracking. I still can't believe that I have a friend in Portugal, for example, who sent me a Harris t-shirt, picture today. I think everybody is on edge, and I'm just praying that we come through for the rest of the world, not just for us, but the rest of the world is watching. And I think a lot of Americans don't realize that we're interconnected, and there's no way to avoid that, and we need to be willing to work with others, and I don't think that Trump, if he wins, would even come close to doing that. So,
thank you, Tracy, so much. You've just heard it here. People in the room are feeling a lot of different emotions. Some are hopeful, some are just waiting to see what other results come in. I'll send it back to the studio.
Thank you so much, Shelby. A very exciting atmosphere, it seems, there. We're now going to head over to our House correspondent, Emily Champagne, to hear about Delaware's senators. Emily?
Thanks, Faith. Delaware's sole House seat is up for grabs without an incumbent for the race in the first time since 2016. Lisa Blunt Rochester, the woman elected then, is now running for Senate, keeping the door wide open. However, a Republican has not held the seat since 2011, and the odds appear to be against Whalen. John Whalen, a retired police officer, is a political newcomer and is competing against a campaign focused on advocacy for statewide family and medical leave legislation, among other important rights. If Democrat Sarah McBride is able to win, she'll be the first transgender person elected to federal office and the youngest elected since Joe Biden's U.S. Senate win in 1972. Democrats see Long Island, New York as a prime opportunity to recapture congressional seats and reclaim a House majority, starting with a race featuring a rematch of 2 years ago, Anthony D'Esposito and Laura Gillen. In 2022, Anthony beat Laura by only 3.6 points, putting the Long Island area in GOP hands for the first time in more than 2 decades. This showdown has drawn outside attention from various other candidates and from fundraisers looking to see their candidate win. Money and turnout could swing races this election, as Gillen has been fundraising significantly more than she has 2 years ago. In North Carolina's Congressional District 1 race is one of the most closely watched in the country. GOP candidate Lori Buckout is looking to upset Democratic incumbent Dawn Davis. North Carolina was one of the states recently redistricted, allowing anything to happen in this election. Davis, an Air Force veteran, lists rebuilding a rural economy as one of his top priorities, something that aligns with North Carolinians. He also was ranked as the 5th most bipartisan member of Congress, a title that may work in his favor. That's all the updates I have on the House right now. Back to you both at the desk.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Thank you so much and welcome back.
Thanks for staying with us. It's been a long night, but we still have lots of updates rolling in. In fact, now we're going to go to our polling expert, Noah Berkowitz in Tufty. Noah, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so Pennsylvania currently has 30% of the vote in, and Kamala Harris is currently winning by about 2 percentage points, with votes expected to be tabulated well into the night. With nearly 80% of votes in Georgia counted, Trump currently holds a 5 percentage point lead and is almost projected to win the state. Now, as votes continue to come in, it becomes more and more likely that Kamala Harris will need to sweep the Rust Belt to win. Now, each of those races Kamala currently leads in, but many votes are still yet to be counted in both rural and urban areas. Guys, back to you.
Exactly. Thanks so much. We now go to the Bordy Theater with updates from Beilu and Liz de Fonseca with a final check-in. Ladies, how's it going?
Okay, we're actually not going to hear from Beilu and Liz right now.
Not yet.
But instead,
let's talk a little bit about what our most recent polling is showing, which, for those of you at home, it looks like there's a large disparity, sure, between the Electoral College votes that Trump has versus Harris. However, we have to keep in mind that there is a lot happening currently in the West. So, you know, states like Colorado, states like California, larger states with a lot of electoral votes, they still haven't necessarily had time to count all of their ballots. It's only 10 p.m. Eastern time, which means polls out west are just closing.
Right, exactly. And now we're going to go back to our correspondent, Sam Lawrence, and he's going to give us a few questions from his panel. Never mind, I'm so sorry about that. We're actually going to go back to the Bordy Theater.
The Bordy Theater.
And we're finally going to get to talk to Belu and Lise.
Yep, we're doing great here at the Bordy Theater. We just finished getting some drinks, some pizza. We're having a good time. Everyone's stressed, but at least we're together. Belu, what are your thoughts on tonight?
Yeah, you know, it has been a long night, especially for a school night.
Don't worry.
It was a great turnout considering, you know, school is tomorrow. These students did show out, but they are trickling out. We're left with, you know, staff and faculty.
When you
but
hold the
no,
sign
I think
there,
it was
I
a
can't
great
see
night
because of the glare.
Yeah, how about you?
I agree. I think it was great. Even though we're all stressed, at least we have some pizza, some drinks, we're together, we're watching the elections, keeping ourselves updated on current politics and what's going on in the country. That's all we have for tonight. Have a great night, guys. Back to the desk.
Check your vote.
Thank you so much, Belu and Lise. Thank you for the update.
Yes, lots happening in the Bordy Theater, and that event is unfortunately winding down soon, but students have to be reminded, for those on Emerson's campus, there are post-election spaces to go to tomorrow and for the rest of the week. So, you know, if you want to explain, sit, have the election explained to you, talk with other students, that is always available.
Exactly, and even though we're a very young crowd, we still have a long night to go, and all over New Hampshire and Massachusetts, we have different people around getting ready at those election night parties.
We'll be sure to check in with them soon, but in the meantime, we have just been staying true and counting in those votes as they come. All right, let's do a little bit of checking in on the Senate race.
Perfect.
I know Emily Champagne has been covering this for us, but until we go back to her, it's important that we also know what's happening, of course. All right, now we're going to head to a quick commercial break, but make sure you stay with us. When we come back, we'll be checking in with some of our live correspondents stationed all around the East Coast and on our Emerson campus. Stay tuned. I don't know.
Black Beatles in the city, be back immediately to confiscate the monies. Fresh ground, wow, my world. You sent flowers, but you said you didn't receive them. But you said you didn't need them. That girl is a real crowd, please. Small world, all her friends know of me. Young bull living like an old geese. Quick release the cash, watch it fall slowly. Frat girl still trying to get in. Haters mad for whatever reason. Smoke in the air, binge drinking. They lose it when the DJ drops the knee. Getting so gone, I'm not blinking. What in the world was I thinking? New day, new money to be made. There is nothing to explain.
Thank you so much, and thanks for staying with us. We're now going to have an update from Addison Brewer. Addison, what do you have for us right now?
Actually, it's a few minutes ago, I believe New York has had some reports in. Let's touch on that first.
Okay.
Donald Trump, in fact, they are neck and neck in Pennsylvania still. Harris has 52% of the votes, while Trump has 47%. 35% of the votes in the state have been counted. A reminder that Pennsylvania is one of those swing states that we are keeping an eye on. It's key to winning this election as it holds 19 electoral college votes. Now we're going to head over to Madison, Lucchese in fact, we're going to head over to Addison Brewer-Hay, who's in New Hampshire. Addison. I know, it was a breaking news update, Queen.
Oh, damn.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, okay.
That's why I was like, you're good. They're probably going to toss back to us because I don't hear any sound. It says Madison Lucchese in the script. Like, when a sign that I'm reading off prompter, I can't see what the sign says. What are we doing? Please beg Jordan to tell us what we're doing.
Important guy in this room. I like to call him the 603 guy.
Why's the prompter scrolling up?
And I can tell you.
Two shots in Madison.
2 shot to Madison? Perfect.
All right.
Thank you so much, Addison, for that update. We're now going to go to our House Senate correspondent, Madison Lucchese, in the Tufty with updates on the Senate. Madison, what do you have?
Hi, Emily. How's it going in the JPC?
Very good. Very excited to hear what you have for us right now, actually.
I'm so glad to hear that. I know Pennsylvania is a big swing state for us tonight. The Senate race has been super close, and things are heating up across the nation in the Senate. But I know that some of the results are slowly coming in. The West Coast is still open with the polls, but the Senate is going strong. Nebraska has 2 races tonight with the special election. California is looking to fill Dianne Feinstein's seat with their special election. So much is happening right now, but I've got it all for you. The swing state of Pennsylvania is a key state to watch tonight. The Senate race is another close one. Democratic incumbent candidate Robert P. Casey Jr. is seeking his 4th term in the Senate. The opposing candidate is Business and Bush Administration Undersecretary for the Treasury for International Affairs, Dave McCormick. Casey's campaign focused on combating so-called greedflation, and he holds an almost 3-point lead in the polls. Both Senate seats are open in Nebraska this year. There is a special election to fill the last 2 years of Democrat Ben Sass's term. Sass resigned from the Senate in January of 2023 after being named the president of the University of Florida. In July, he resigned from the university due to his wife's declining health. Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen appointed former Governor Pete Ricketts to fill the seat until this election. Now Ricketts is vying to fill the seat for the rest of the term. Republican politician Preston Love Jr. is running against Ricketts. Ricketts gained a sharp lead over Love Jr. in the polls. The second senatorial race in Nebraska is between Republican incumbent candidate Deb Fischer and independent Navy veteran and unionist Dan Osborne. Fischer is seeking re-election for her 3rd term. The race became very close in the last month, with Fischer currently leading in the polls by 2 points. The second special election in this cycle is in California. This election will fill the seat left open after Senator Dianne Feinstein's death in 2023. Democratic strategist LaFonza Butler was appointed to the seat in the interim by California Governor Gavin Newsom. The candidates looking to finish out Feinstein's term are Democratic lawyer Adam Schiff and Republican and former MLB player Steve Garvey. Schiff served as a state senator and a representative of the 27th Congressional District. This would be Garvey's first seat in political office. He voted for Trump in the last 3 presidential elections and called college protesters, quote, terrorists for interrupting education, according to Politico. With an estimated 20-point lead in the polls, Schiff is the predicted winner. In Maryland, Senator Benjamin Cardin is not running for a fourth term. The Democratic candidate is executive and state's attorney for Prince George's County, Angela Alsobrooks. The Republican candidate is Larry Hogan, the state's governor from 2015 to 2023. Initially, Hogan held a strong lead over Alsobrooks. Maryland is traditionally a blue state, but some voters favor Hogan due to his moderate stance and criticism of former President Donald Trump. However, in September, the polls showed a complete switch, and Alsobrooks currently leads by over 10 points. That's all for Senate News tonight. Back to you at the JPC.
Thank you so much, Madison. Very interesting in California. That's a race that we'll also be watching closely. None of the polls in California or in Alaska have closed yet. In fact, those are the only two states where that's the case. But we have some more exciting news back home. We're going to toss now to Shelby O'Brien, that is at the Mass Dems party. Shelby, what do you have for us?
Right now, the crowd from earlier has started to disperse, but the music is still loud and it is still going. Those that are left here are patiently awaiting as votes are coming in from the West Coast. They are seeing votes in key battleground states such as Pennsylvania, and where the race is too tight to call. I'll send it back to the studio.
Thank you so much, Shelby. Yes, I'm sure it's clearing out there, but the night is far from over, like we've said before. Very exciting things happening here. We soon are going to toss to an interesting sit-down package. We had correspondence earlier in the week sit down with members of local government here in Boston. But in the meantime, a little bit of an Electoral College update for you as we get that set up. Currently, we have Donald Trump leading in the Electoral College with 198 electoral votes. Kamala Harris coming in with 109, slowly trying to close that gap. Again, a very, very tight race, still with lots of polls open, lots of ballots being counted. In a lot of states, remember, it's up to state law. They can't necessarily start counting mail-in votes and early votes until after the polls close, so it could be longer than this evening to wait.
Right, and exactly what you said. California and Alaska still have some open polls right now, so it's still going to be a while till we find out for them. I know Kamala also just got the electoral votes for the state of Colorado, so we're still looking at a few more states and also as well as those swing states as well.
Yes, correct. And like I said before, we have a sit-down interview coming up. Our reporter Avery Morin sat down with Mariangeli Solis-Severa, Boston's Chief of Equity and Inclusion. Here's the story.
Thanks, Faith and Emily. I'm here with Mariangeli Solis-Severa, who is Boston's Chief of Equity and Inclusion.
I was like,
as the leader of the city's Equity and Inclusion Cabinet, she focuses on advancing racial justice and social equity across Boston. Appointed by Mayor Michelle Wu in 2022, Severa is committed to ensuring that all voices are heard in local government. Thanks for joining us today, Chief.
Of course. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. How can the outcomes of the upcoming election impact educational policies for immigrant and first-generation students in Boston?
Yeah, as a former educator, I have a lot of experience and insights into this, and I was actually a teacher back in 2016 and 15 when 8 years ago we were going through a similar situation. And for us, it's clear, right, where different candidates stand, and either choice represents a significant difference in not only funding of schools, but also protection of rights of children inside of classrooms, protections of unions for the teachers and the janitors and people who work in schools. And so when we think about equity in general, we have to acknowledge that there are people in this country that have had opportunities, and there are others that have been neglected those opportunities. And when we talk about educational equity, it is equally important for us to open up those textbooks and understand how segregation has impacted school funding, how taxing policies have impacted our school funding, and the way what students get taught and how they graduate, how qualified they graduate from high schools, and how many opportunities they have in a post-secondary education. And so I believe that education is inherently political. But this election is even more important for our young kids, our first generation. I'll call them the hyphen kids, the kids that have been here from birth, but their parents migrated here, as well as our immigrant youth, our Black youth, our queer youth. It matters how we vote this year.
100%. How do you envision increasing representation of immigrant voices in local government?
I would not be in the role that I am today if it wasn't for Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, if it wasn't for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Mayor Michelle Wu.
Right.
I never really saw myself as somebody that could be part of this institution. In fact, I'm from a family that did not trust this institution, still doesn't trust this institution. And so, because for years we've had so many people whose shoulder I stand on, advocating and fighting and pushing and creating tension and change, we have so many opportunities to see ourselves reflected in the decision-making table. We have mirrors now, and my hope is that we no longer are mirrors, but we are people who can actually open doors for more people with more diverse perspectives to be a part of the formula. And I think for us, it's important that we think about diversity through an intersectional lens. It's not just about the have-nots, the Black, the white folks. It's about Black, white, brown, queer, trans, people with different socioeconomic status. And until we can have those conversations, government will continue to harm people, and that's not what we believe in.
Right. I think it's great that you have that support system and that you yourself are able to
Addison,
bring
to
the
wrap
members.
up election night coverage, they are in New Hampshire right now. Addison?
It is big smiles and excitement here at the Artisan Hotel as Kelly Ayat's victory was just confirmed. Right now, everybody is celebrating together and is looking forward to a night of victory here at this hotel. Ayat won with a victory of 51.4% against her counterpart, Joyce, who lost with 46.6% of the state's votes. Everybody here is looking forward to a night of celebration and is currently collaborating over this victory. Thank you, and back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Addison. We're now going to go to our panel led by Sam Lawrence up in the Debona studio. Sam, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Faith and Emily. We are going to kick off right where we left off on the issue of reproductive rights in America. In many states, abortion providers and doctors have been threatened with legal penalties for operating on women even when they are suffering from a miscarriage and can no longer carry their baby to term. Also, according to the National Library of Medicine, around half of the women seeking abortions in the United States live below the federal poverty line, and 1/3 of the women do not have enough money to cover basic necessities like food and housing. Harris has offered a much different approach to abortion compared to Trump, and said in the second presidential debate that if Congress presented her with a bill that codified the protections of Roe v. Wade, she would, quote, proudly sign it into law. Kayla, we're going to kick it off with you. How heavily are voters going to be weighing the issue of a woman's right to choose? And once again, is it a winning issue for Harris?
Yeah, Sam, I mean, great question. I think there's definitely a huge reason why both political parties, both campaigns are really targeting women right now, because they know that women are such a huge bloc and will be very useful in them winning this election. A poll by Harvard has said that Harris is up 30 points from women demographics 18 to 29. And a huge reason why I believe she has that edge is because of her views on abortion. I think that we're going to see a huge voter turnout for women, specifically women that have and want autonomy over their body to keep abortion rights active, especially in those 10 states where abortion is directly on the ballot. Now, we do know that most women do believe that Trump, given the chance, would sign a federal law banning abortion if Congress passes such a law. So I think that this is a huge issue for women. I think we're going to see them turning out in droves to support their right of autonomy over their body, and I think it could definitely be a winning election for Harris.
Definitely. Thank you, Kayla.
I'd also love to add that I think we don't often see Trump backpedaling on an issue, but you can tell how large of an issue this is to voters based off the fact that he is now. Whereas before he was almost bragging about his ability to overturn Roe v. Wade, he took like full responsibility for doing so.
He said he killed it.
Yes.
Fully admitted.
And now we see him posting on X, vowing that he would not sign, he would veto a bill banning abortion. We saw him, specifically stating that he would not, and vowing that he would not use the Comstock Act to essentially ban abortion. And it is so telling that they are targeting women on this issue and even backpedaling, especially for Trump.
Well, he also said that doctors were performing abortions up to the 9-month mark, which is just completely inaccurate. But I want to move on to the issue of immigration. Under President Biden, illegal border crossings rose to record heights, with over 2 million migrants entering the country from the southern border in 2022. This year, just over 17,000 undocumented immigrants have been arrested for crimes ranging from robbery and fraud to illegal drug possession and assault and battery, according to the United States Customs and Border Protection Agency. Crossings were much lower under President Trump, but he received criticism for his administration's strict regulation of border security, which led to the separation of over 5,000 migrant children from their parents. He also received pushback for his campaign's false promises to have Mexico pay for the construction of the wall at the southern border. In reality, the United States federal government wound up paying $16 billion on the project. Harris is carrying the weight of the current administration's difficulties with border control as she continues to campaign for president. And Trump's vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance, has called her a, quote, failed border czar. Trey, how will this issue affect Harris's chances of winning tonight? And does Trump appeal more to voters on this issue?
Well, it's certainly an issue that's top of mind to most voters. CNN exit polls have, I believe, 20% of voters who are leaving the polls tonight having immigration as their number one issue. NBC has a very similar poll. I believe AP is around 11% of voters have immigration as their number one issue. I think a lot of times we would assume economy to be the number one issue for a lot of voters, but it is immigration for a vast majority of Americans. Looking at the history of immigration policy in the United States, it has been since 1986 the last time we saw a real bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans coming together with the pen of the president at the time, Ronald Reagan, and doing something about the border. So we have had a long time and a lot of failed efforts. Both the Bush administration and the Obama administration tried to take bipartisan approaches to fix immigration.
We almost had one pretty recently.
And I was going to say, we almost had one very recently in the Biden-Harris administration, which I do think earns Harris some points tonight. I think that for moderate voters and for folks who are looking at this issue and saying, you know what, I might have supported Trump in 2016, but he failed, like you said, on a lot of those issues when it comes to the supposed wall that he was going to build on these deportations. He didn't live up to the promises that he was telling his supporters. So I do think there's a number of his supporters tonight who are saying, can I give you another chance tonight when you didn't uphold the promises that you were telling us back in 2016? And I think there are definitely some folks who are going to cross party lines tonight. I also know that with the Biden-Harris administration and their effort to move forward on immigration, to get people on board, including some of the most conservative Republicans in Congress right now, that is telling to a lot of folks that she's going to be a bipartisan president and somebody who's going to work on behalf of the American people.
Well, based on what we discussed at this panel and continual updates on polling, how do you see the rest of the night turning out?
Anybody want to take it?
Not me.
Oh, man.
I'll give it a try.
Sure, give it a go.
So obviously it's incredibly early on. It's difficult to tell, and I can't make any specific prediction. But right now we're seeing what everyone talks about always, which is the red mirage. We see that a lot of states are leaning Republican. Through what we talked about with abortion especially, I would assume to see a lot more blue votes come in as the night goes on. However, obviously, as everyone has told everyone watching, it's going to be close.
Yeah, and we're going to touch upon a lot more of those issues later tonight back in the JPC. Thank you guys so much for being here with me tonight. I'm going to send it back over. Thank you. I'm going to send it back over to you guys, Faith and Emily. How are things going over there?
Going so great. Things here are going so great, right, Faith?
Yeah, things are going well in the studio.
So So thank you, Sam, for that. We're now going to head to a live update from Shelby O'Brien at the Massachusetts Democratic Party. Shelby, what do you have for us?
Right now we are standing in the room that has mostly cleared out, but I am with fellow Emerson alum and a poll worker, Faith Girdler. Faith, how are you feeling about tonight in Massachusetts?
Well, right now it's a little nerve-wracking, I have to say. I mean, Donald Trump has 198 electoral votes, but I realize that the western states haven't come in yet, and they are probably going to be for, Kamala.
Definitely. Now, I'm sure you've seen a lot in what you've done with the polls. What has been your primary focus this election season?
Oh, well, I feel it's my civic duty, and it also kept me from climbing the walls with anxiety, because frankly I was so busy that I didn't have time to worry and obsess about what was going on. And it is exciting to see, and it's really moving to see how excited people are, to vote for the first time. Like every time we have a voter who is voting for the first time, all the poll workers give him or her a round of applause, which is, a lovely thing.
What has been the hardest part of your job leading up to tonight?
Oh, well, the hours are really long. I mean, we had to be there at 6 a.m. and we had to stay until 9 p.m. So that's a 15-hour day. And you're there for 7 hours, and you're like, wow, that's a long time, but I still have another 7 hours to go.
Yes, well, you must be feeling relieved that it is all over. We are here reporting the room is, people are filing out of the room, but we are still getting in election results from the states on the West Coast. As in what night winds down here in Massachusetts, we'll send it back to the studio.
So much, Shelby. Now with 84% of votes in, Georgia is leaning red. Trump currently has 52% of the vote compared to Harris's 47%. Since most votes are counted from big cities like Atlanta and Augusta, Trump is likely to win the state.
And Montana Governor Greg Gianforte has been re-elected, according to the Associated Press. Gianforte defeated Democratic challenger Ryan Boost, solidifying Republicans' control over Montana 4 years after the state turned red. Until Gianforte was elected in 2020, Democrats held the governor's office for 16 years.
Now, the New York Times is reporting that former President Donald Trump is a narrow but clear favorite to win Georgia and North Carolina. He currently leads in both states, holding 52% of the vote in Georgia and 51% in North Carolina. If he takes both states, Vice President Kamala Harris will likely need to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin to win.
And Boston police were authorized to turn on their sirens and rush additional ballots to polling locations. We now go to Tufty to check in on the House with correspondent Emily Champagne. Emily?
As of a few minutes ago, Wisconsin is looking like it will be a photo finish for the state's winner. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump continue to switch, having the lead over each other by only 1 point to 1.5%. 35% of Wisconsin's votes have been counted. Donald Trump had just won Missouri as well. The state favored the former president in both the 2016 and 2020 election. The Republican Party currently holds all statewide political offices, according to the Associated Press. Trump is ahead at 198 points, and Harris is at 109 points. This leaves Trump at 52.5% and Harris 46.3%. Results from major swing states are yet to come. At this point, more than half of U.S. polls have closed. That's all that I have for right now, but now to go on to a little bit more news. Colorado Republican Laura Boebert and Tricia Cavallari are expected to experience some competition from three third-party candidates: Paul Noel Perino, Frank Atwood, and Hannah Goodman. Lauren Boebert has been a U.S. House member since 2021, but in Colorado's 3rd District that covers the western part of the state. She decided to switch districts after longtime Republican Ken Buck announced he would not be seeking a sixth term. According to Buck, the Republican Party has strayed away from its original ideals and is no longer showing clear solutions. If Obert is not elected, it will shift the representation of a portion of Colorado that has long been represented by a Republican. This, in turn, will cause a significant shift in the political makeup of Colorado. Republican freshman John Duart is hoping to keep hold of his seat in California, a rural swing district. He is, however, facing a 2022 challenger Democrat, Adam Gray, for the second time. This rematch is one of 5 highly competitive House races in California and plays a key role as to which party will be in the majority next year. Just 2 years ago, Duart won by fewer than 600 votes, the second slimmest margin in the nation, and is expected to be similar again this year. However, California is proving to be a purple state this election, as almost all of the House spots are held by Republicans, even though the state has had a Democratic majority. Republican Mike Garcia is defending his seat from Democratic candidate George Whitesides, a deep-pocketed political newcomer. In this northern Los Angeles County district, Garcia picked up the seat in 2020 during a special election. However, he has held on to win the general election and midterm during 2022. With a new Democrat in the mix, the race could see an upset. That's all I have for right now. Let's go back to the JPC with more news.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey!
Okay. If you love me enough to tolerate my perfect little pets and all their glorious dander, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me! Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
At my destination, I'm gonna kill Bill.
What? Oh, okay, cutting. Sorry, can we get some of this?
Where in God's name is the gaffer's tape? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nate.
And I'm Casey, and we're the National Broadcasting Society.
Come out to some of our weekly workshops, or work on some of our sets.
Explore the bigger picture with NBS.
We'll see you there.
All right, let's get another take. Camera, sound.
Hi, I'm Mary Malloy, the host of Speechless, and you're watching the Emerson Channel.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for staying tuned. What you just saw there was the Trump headquarters in New York. Very, very active out there this evening. We're going to go now to Vani, who is our correspondent in Tufty. Vani, what do you have for us? Any updates?
Yes, we are now getting results from the Massachusetts ballot questions. As of now, it's looking like the first 3 questions, majority of people have voted yes, and majority of people have voted no on the following 2. Although the following 2 are fairly close in race, and they're still to be determined. Votes are still coming in, and we're still finding out how people are deciding to vote in Massachusetts on those ballot questions. Now stay tuned, because nothing is definite yet. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Bonnie.
So we're now going to take a look at Trump HQ. Apparently we have a live look at his party right now, so let's go look at that.
All right, very interesting. As you can see, lots of celebratory vibes happening right now in New York. Obviously, this is home to the large Trump Tower. Lots of his supporters flocked there, although he is in Florida at the Mar-a-Lago residence this evening.
Right here, we have a whole bunch of people in support as Trump is taking the lead right now from Kamala Harris. We still have a few more swing states to go, and we're still going to see what's happening. But Trump is right now heading to Florida.
Yes, and honestly, celebrating in Florida, in fact, as well. He won the state, and Florida has made big gains on ballot measures, very important to residents there. As we mentioned earlier in the show, abortion did not stand on the state ballot in this election cycle. However, also, we have New York Times polling that shows that the state has leaned more right, more conservative than they did in the 2020 election. And honestly, that was sort of unprecedented results. All right, and soon we are going to go over to Hong Yi in Tufty Studios. We're not sure yet, though, if they're ready for us.
Yes, and in the meantime, while we get him right here, we're going to keep looking at some polls that we have. We did get some word in that some Senate people have already taken a seat up in Congress. We do have some people here in Delaware.
Yes.
As well as in the state of Maryland, Angela also Brooks won her seat from Larry Hogan. So congratulations to her, as we're seeing.
Yes, your home state.
I know, my home state, my hometown, so.
Correct. Also, in very interesting news, something that diverged from 2020, there are some ballots in every election that are rejected, either because of stray marks or a signature that can't be verified. Usually that margin is very small. In 2020, it was 0.8%, so not even a full 1%. However, already, as we've been tabulating ballots this evening, there have been much more ballots, mail-in ballots and hand-delivered ballots that have not counted. The highest number totaling in Georgia so far, a total of 1.4% of the results. That's already nearly 4,000 ballots that are being rejected. Those will not have a chance to be cured. And in a race so tight, they could make a difference, especially in certain counties.
Right, and over here in a few blue states, they did send some law enforcement to go pick up some ballots last minute because they really do want to get those in. So now we are ready for Hong Yi Ji, and we are going to get a live look from him. So Hong Yi, what do you have from us?
Thank you, Emily. Let us turn our attention to Arizona. Trump now has 1.7% edge over Harris. Trump at 48.5%, Harris at 46.8%. Arizona was historically considered a Republican stronghold in presidential elections. It consistently voted for Republican candidates from 1952 to 1996. The shift came when it voted for Democrat candidate Bill Clinton in 1996. Arizona also voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 election. It was actually the second time since 1948 that the state supported a Democratic presidential candidate. This reflected a growing Latino population and an influx of residents from more liberal states. Arizona's gubernatorial races have often favored Republicans. The current governor is Doug Ducey, who is a Republican. He was elected in 2014 and re-elected in 2018. With that being said, the gubernatorial elections have become more competitive with more Democrats making inroads. In the Senate, Arizona has shifted notably. In 2018, Democrat Kirsten Sinema won a Senate seat, flipping it from Republicans' control for the first time in decades. Then in 2020, Democrat Mark Kelly won the special election for the other seat. This marked the first time since 1950s that both of the Arizona Senate seats were held by Democrats. In the House, Arizona's delegation is divided, with both parties representing different districts. Again, urban areas like Phoenix and Tucson leaning toward Democrats, while rural areas favoring Republicans. Immigration, economy, and environmental concerns and healthcare are top issues in the state. The extensive border with Mexico make immigration and border control hot topics. Debates over border wall construction, immigration reform, and the treatment of asylum seekers influence voters across Arizona. Tourism, agriculture, technology, and manufacturing are all significant factors in Arizona's economy. Environmental issues are particularly important because of concerns about water scarcity, drought, and the impact of climate change. That's all I have. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Hong Yi. We have some breaking news for you right now. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte has been reelected, as we said before. Very interesting that he defeated the Democratic challenger, Ryan Boost. We also have some other breaking news coming for you. Very interesting. Kelly Ayotte, as Addison already said, has secured the New Hampshire governor race. It's going to be very interesting. Also, Maricopa County, which includes Phoenix, Arizona, has reported its first votes. The massive county is key for candidates, but its first update included about 1 million votes. County officials have warned that it could take up to 13 days to count all of the ballots in the state. Very interesting. Additionally, we know that Nevada, although their polls just closed, they are not able by the state law to start releasing data on the votes. They can start counting, but they cannot start releasing voter data until after everybody has voted. Now, although polls have closed, those in line are still able to cast their ballots, so it could be hours as there are lines wrapped around the block at some polling centers.
Right, exactly. So we also did just get in word that Trump is now at 210 electoral votes. He is really, really close to that 270, and Kamala is still at that 112. So again, we're still looking at those big swing states. We still have those other smaller states like California, Washington, Oregon. But like the Faith said, it's not looking like we're going to get a winner tonight, and we're going to have to hold out for the next few days.
Absolutely not, especially in somewhere like Nevada. You know, that is a swing state, and it could take, they said in Arizona, 13 days. Now in Nevada, it's not projected to take nearly as long. However, though, definitely, you all should be asleep by the time those votes come in tonight, likely early morning, potentially over the next few days. As Emily mentioned at the top of the show, President Biden was not confirmed until Saturday, which was nearly 4 days after. Now, we're going to stay tuned with you all till we keep following those results. In the meantime, we're going to head to a commercial break. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Alright, come back in 10 seconds. Ready, camera one. Camera one, get a wide shot of the entire thing, and in 3, 2, 1, take talent cue.
Welcome back to Emerson College. Emerson
Camera
trails
4, get a shot of the players coming across the court.
10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point. As
Camera 2 close on the person shooting.
Thanks, Joe. With 10 seconds left, Emerson is hoping to pull away and score this big one.
Camera 1, get a close up, follow them over.
Emerson trails WPI 10 points. 10 seconds left. Emerson trails by 1 point as the team finishes their timeout.
Camera 1 close up on number 33.
Thanks, Joe. 10 seconds left. Emerson's
Follow the ball, follow the ball.
And thank you so much for staying with us. We're getting close to the end of our show, but right before we do that, we're going to go to Noah Berkowitz at the Tufty studio. Noah, what do you have for us?
Awesome, guys. Thank you. So I'm just going to do a little Electoral College map update for you. So everything in red obviously has been confirmed for Republicans, vice versa with the blue. Now, you can see here, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, still all uncalled, still incredibly tight races. We're going to have to pay attention to those all night. Also, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, all other swing states that are yet to be called. Arizona, as you heard from Hong Yi earlier, very, very tight race. Lots of votes to get through still. Nevada, polls are just closing. That is bound to be a very tight race. You heard earlier that they're having record turnout out in Nevada. Now, Georgia is about to get a major election, a major dump in a heavy Democrat-centered county because of election errors in their machines from earlier today. That vote is, the Kamala Harris campaign is hoping that those votes will influx her to be able to get back into this race. Now, North Carolina teetering on the edge of being called for Donald Trump. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, all still very much in play for both candidates. Minnesota, the most likely to be called for Kamala Harris in the next couple minutes. But again, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those are the big three, a part of the Rust Belt, the blue wall, if you will, that Kamala Harris, if she loses Georgia and North Carolina, she's going to need to pick up some here, especially Pennsylvania, where she's down right now. It's going to be really tight going into this night. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Now, New Mexico is also extremely tight as we speak. Arizona with its 11 electoral votes. Going into today, I think many people expected that Arizona was going to be more of a trouncing for Trump. But Arizona, very tight as we speak. Nevada, same thing. Polls are recently closing. They're going to try and count as quick as possible. But what I would really pay attention to is just going to hammer this home is the new Georgia vote dump that we're about to get, and then the blue wall here of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you so much, Noah. Yes, very interesting. In fact, we were just reading the same updates from the Associated Press. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, all still very much in play. We're now going to go to reporter Annabeth Fernandez with a segment about comedy surrounding this year's election.
I spoke to registered voters in Boston about how they believe political comedy impacts social climate with their party's candidate. From Democratic to Republican voters, here's what they had to say. In preparation for the upcoming election, voters are actively using their voice to advocate for their desired party.
So I was just doing a standout like normal. We've done like 157 at this point in the city.
Though some rallies face obstacles, it doesn't stop these supporters from voicing their views.
I don't think both sides should be satire at all. I think that Hollywood needs to just stay out of politics in general because this affects everyday life. So why are these people allowed to make fun of it? Just to make fun of these fights on both sides.
The media's use of satirical humor when approaching political arguments strikes voters in a variety of ways. With increased enforcement of strict policies and active debate across diverse platforms, the way these political parties are represented in the media affect all eligible voters.
I don't understand why the media is getting involved so heavy. I think we need to go back to news sources being truly unbiased.
Though there are negative repercussions towards social climate, some argue there is a lighthearted side to this discussion if handled tastefully.
I don't think one side deserves to be mocked more than the other.
Famous entertainment sources such as NBC's Saturday Night Live are noted for their eccentric portrayal of political candidates. The comical depiction of today's issues may seem problematic, but this Democratic voter thinks it brings us together during tumultuous times.
No matter what your opinion is, humor is universal and everyone can laugh.
Whether some enjoy it or not, political comedy remains a part of our culture and is seemingly here to stay. Reporting for WEBN Political Pulse, I'm Annabeth Fernandez.
And just now, Trump has won both Iowa and Kansas. This has earned the former president 12 electoral votes. Trump has won Iowa and Kansas in all three of his presidential campaigns. very interesting. You know, for a lot of this year's race, it seems like trends have been following along party lines, kind of exactly how we expected certain states to be called, at least on the East and the Midwest so far. That's kind of how they've fallen.
Right, the only ones that are a little bit here and there are the ones that are swing states, but besides that, everything from last year's term and the term before that when Trump did win the presidential election, it's looking like it's still following the same patterns.
Yeah, except actually there has been an anomaly. It's really interesting. New York Times and AP did release certain polling from counties in New York. It seems that in the Bronx, Queens, which is Donald Trump's native town or city, borough, if you will, in Queens, Brooklyn, and the Bronx, Trump has made inroads and actually swayed a lot of voters in a typically very blue city. Anyways, we're going to go now to commercial. Make sure you stay tuned. It's the last 10 minutes of our live election special. We've got more when we're back.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
You can achieve a lot using your imagination. I mean, I don't like to brag, but... Wait, who's that? And why is she all over these achievement awards? But with STEM, the sky's the limit. Shaboom! Use STEM to envision... Okay, I'm seeing it. Yeah! Invent...
Got any ideas?
I've got a few, actually. And create a better world.
Told you she's super smart.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for 75 years, he's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But there's a lot more to say. Like, if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet a few who are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Maggie, did you print out the script?
No, that was your job.
Maggie, oh my God, I do it every week.
No,
I told you this is the one
but we
I
talked
didn't
about
want
this.
responsibility.
Okay, I need to pick my wedgie.
Oh my God, look, they got us slushies. Great freeze. Oh my God, we're here.
He's queer.
Now get used to it. Come on, give me my mic. Mic me. Hi, I'm Christian Mudrick.
And I'm Maggie Morlap.
And you're watching Real Reactions.
On the Emerson Channel.
Hi, I'm Aaron Kinigsberg, host of EIV's The Dish. Tune in every Friday for your chance to see what kind of bow tie I pulled out of my closet today.
Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at SheCanSTEM.com.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt. I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back, and before we wrap up the evening, we're going to head to our polling correspondent, Noah Berkowitz. Noah, what do you have?
All right, guys, so we've got a couple things, two really breaking stories. So first off, the 6 electoral votes and the 6 electoral votes from Kansas and Iowa have been announced for Donald Trump. So that's 12 more votes for Donald Trump, fully confirmed by the Associated Press. Now, another really major breaking update is the fact that the New York Times, for the first time tonight, has said that they think that Donald Trump is likely to win the election. Now, that's not a prediction. That's not a finalized belief. But based off of the information that they have, the New York Times believes that Donald Trump is likely to win the election because he's winning right now in the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He also has an advantage in Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, still yet to be announced. A state that's really supposed to be a Democratic stronghold has been really, really going late into this night. But yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, all Trump advantages right now, which is the reason why the New York Times believes that Trump is likely to win this election. Still lots of votes to be tabulated here in Arizona, Nevada. Lots of the vote dump to happen here down in Georgia. We'll see exactly what happens, but the New York Times is saying that they believe that that Donald Trump has a good chance to win this election tonight.
What did you say, White House stuff? Thank you so much, Noah, and thank you for tuning in for this WEBN and M Channel production. I'm Emily Martinez.
And I'm Faith Pino. Have a good night.